Okay, this video is going to be, I'm going to show the differences between the South American animal versions of the same kind and the African versions of the same kind. One of which is very common, the jaguar and the leopard are very well known, and they seem to be not too hard to miss the differences there. Okay, I'm going to see if I can do this. Okay, first I'm going to show the African leopard. Oh, here. Don't mind me as I mess this up really good, but hopefully you will be able to see the difference once I straighten it out. The difference between the African leopard here, as shown here, and here. Trying to figure this out, but anyways, they switched up the way of showing the animals. They switched it up, but you can see this is a distinct kind of animal here. Pretty much, this is a leopard, recognized as a leopard. A lot of people can't even tell the difference, but I'm just showing the difference. I want to illustrate the examples because they're entirely compatible with the jaguar. It's really the same animal, the same common ancestor. So if you were to compare the genomes side by side, there would probably be copies of the same information, which is not the case with chimps and humans, by the way. So this is the African leopard, and we'll see if we can see a difference between this one and the South American jaguar. So this is the South American jaguar. Do you see the difference? Actually, I can tell you the difference. You can see the spots are larger on the jaguar, but basically it's the same animal. It's just that the spots are a little bit larger than the spots on the leopard. Okay, let me go back to the leopard. There's the leopard. You see the spots, they aren't as big, basically. But it's the same animal. Now, surprise, surprise, we have another animal called, let me see if we can find it here. We'll call it the honey badger. Okay. This is the African honey badger. Everybody, you might be familiar with the honey badger, the African honey badger. But are you familiar with its counterpart in South America? It's called the greater grison. The greater grison is virtually the same animal, so much so that they get them mixed up. They don't even know the difference between a greater grison and a honey badger. This one on the bottom here, the bottom right, that's a honey badger, and this one up here, these are greater grisons. You want me to show you the difference? The difference is in the coat. You can see the honey badger's got a more distinct white coat on top, which of course would help it to stay cool. But then the greater grison has almost the same coloring on its face, except that it's just a little bit different shape. but it's really the same animal. They belong to the skunk family, which is it's not really a badger. It's more of what do they call it? It's I don't even know. They belong to. It's not really a badger. It's the skunk family. The whatever you call them things. There's a whole bunch of different kinds, but this one here is, to me, is pretty clear that it's the same animal, only in South America. Yeah, the ears are smaller on the honey badger. You can see the ears on the greater Grison. But other than that, it's pretty much the same animal. They have the same diet. They go after snakes the same way, and you can see the area of the habitat. But this to me is pretty strong evidence that the Earth, was divided 100 years after the global flood. Because you couldn't have different animals. The same animal in different places on both sides of the split. If it split during the flood, the split was during the flood, you wouldn't have the same animal on both sides of the Atlantic ridge where it split apart. But since the animals spread out while people were building the Tower of Babel for 100 years, however long they were doing it, the animals were able to reach South America, and of course people had to reach South America by another way. And they had to know it existed too. They had to know it was there or know how to get there. But the animals were there. The jaguar reached South America, and the greater Grison reached South America. And they're really the same animals, obviously. And the jaguar is entirely compatible. The greater Grison is probably copied from the same common ancestor as the honey badger too, as far as that goes. But so what seems to have happened is that the Earth was divided. It was a traumatic, catastrophic event, and everybody went back to their own families, and their own families ended up speaking their own language, and they forgot about the Tower of Babel, and they left the Tower of Babel. And that was 100 years after the global flood. That seems to be what happened. At least that's what convinces me as to what happened, because fountain of the deep bursting open and shooting to the moon is a little bit far-fetched to me. And plus we have the sediment layers that go between North America and Europe, which is the same layer, and that is not possible if you have a split during the global flood and not after the global flood. And then you have these animals that are on both sides of the Atlantic ridge and the Atlantic Ocean. And how did they get there? Because the jaguars reached South America before the Earth was divided, and the greater Grison did too, and probably many other animals too, which I'm still investigating. So we're still in the process of searching for the truth, knowing the truth, learning the truth, so that we can do the right thing and be effective people with a purpose in life, and and have reason, be able to reason, you know. God says, "Come, let us reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, they'll be white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they will be as wool." In other words, God is able to wash your sins away. And the Bible is true. It's always borne out to be true. Evolution never was proven to be true. Every claim of evolution is always disproved. Every fact of the Bible always bears out to be true, as we can see right here. We can see that the earth was divided, and the jaguars were on one side and the leopards on the other side, and it's really the same animal. Same with the greater grison and the honey badger. So that's the evidence. The evidence backs up the truth, and the Bible will always be true.